back. After a 1-week absence, we've returned to infect the airways with the unique blend of fantasy baseball enlightenment on RotoRob Fantasy Baseball Weekly Podcast. Heard every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. EST on Blog Talk Radio. We're into mid-May now, which means we're less than 4 weeks away from the 2015 MLB Draft. This week, Jorge Posada made clear his views on the Hall of Fame worthiness of ex-teammates A-Rod and Roger Clemens. In a very classy move, the Orioles announced they will lost home games and Justin Masterson on the DH. For the next 45 minutes or so pull up a beanbag chair and get comfy. I'm RotoRob, and my guest this week is Tim McLeod of Pattonandco. How are you this evening, Tim?
Well, I'm not too bad at all, Rob. I'm sounding a bit better than you. We got a little bit of a pinging echo going on at your end of the world, so just thought I'd give you a heads up. How's everything in Hogtown this evening?
Well, I'm not doing as well as Matt Holliday, who talked his way into the lineup today despite a bruised elbow, and he's enjoying a major renaissance this season. Now, I want to remind you the chat room and phone lines are open. Guests, feel free to call in at 347-826-7358. Now, before we get to this week's news, I'm going to quickly run down what's going on over Rob. We have
Rob, are you there?
Well, and soon starting pitchers to wrap up. Yes. Hello?
Yeah, nothing's
Hello?
coming through. We got major echo. I haven't heard a thing you've said, about every sixth word maybe.
All right, I'm going to call in.
Okay.
You go ahead and talk.
Okay, what to talk about? Well, I covered gummy bears last week, so maybe we should look at something a little bit more important than good old gummy bears. The Milwaukee Brewers are going to be without the services of their leadoff bat and starting shortstop. Jean Segura is on the DL with a broken pinky finger. Just about the time I'm getting Jose Reyes back, it would appear. Now I'm losing Jean Segura, and I know nobody really cares about how my fantasy teams are doing.
Oh no, I care, Tim.
I know you care. I can hear the empathy oozing out of my telephone. But the bottom line is, broken pinky finger on his throwing hand. Looks like he could be down and out for a while. Unfortunately, it leaves us scrambling looking for a middle infielder, and Johnny Giavotella could be the best of the best, and it could be a long ride over the next, I would say probably maybe 6 weeks until Segura gets back in the lineup.
Wow. Well, I'm back. Sorry about the technical issue there, but I quickly want to run down what's going on over at RotoRob.com, and then we'll get into this week's news. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Woohoo! Well, on the baseball side of things, every Sunday, of course, we have the Wire Troll written by MLB editor Michael Seff, and this week highlighting Chris Colabello. Our outfield rankings are being worked on, designated hitters as well, and soon starting pitchers to wrap up this year's positional rankings. Football, we will have more off-season content coming soon. Same with hockey. And basketball, watch for the Wire Troll All-Star team soon, just finishing up the formatting on that. Video games, nothing new this week, but new games being added constantly, so check back soon. We are now just 6 posts away from 4,100 in the site's history, so should hit that mark in late May, if not sooner. Finally, do not forget to follow at RotoRob on Twitter. We're just 3 followers away from 3,500, so come and join the party. And while you're at it, follow at Timothy LMC, who is just 5 away from 1,500 himself. So we're both about to hit some major milestones on Twitter. Woohoo!
Yeah, who would have thought, Rob, when it took me 6 months into Twitter to figure out what the notifications meant, I'd ever get to that 1,500.
You do stumble your way through, Tim.
Well, like I said many times before, Rob, and you can attest to it, I am a technical guru.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime I have anything wrong with my computer, the first person I turn to is Tim. After the first my first 30,000 friends are unavailable, of course.
Well, yeah, well, just buy a new one, solve the problem. Done.
All right, our top story this week, another injury has hit Detroit. This time it's Alex Avila, who's landed on the DL with a knee injury. We recommended Avila in the season debut of the Wire Troll after his fast start, saying he should be a solid asset if he can avoid concussions. Well, he has, but the knee got him this time. And reports suggest he may need surgery originally reports suggested he may need surgery as there's a loose piece of bone in there. But he's gone and got a second and then a third opinion. And even though he originally sounded resigned to the fact he'll need surgery, he's going to avoid going under the knife, so he should be back before the end of the season. Tim, what do you see here with Avila, this situation?
Well, I see him basically as, for the most part, in our game, the fantasy game, a second catcher at best. The batting average at the time he hit the DL was somewhere around 200. He'd regressed back to, basically what he is. Moving forward, I think it could be a long stint on the DL. Not quite Devin Mesoraco-ish, but it's somewhere in that right area.
Well, Mesoraco hasn't actually hit the DL yet, but we shall see. As far as Avila goes, his goal is actually to return healthy for the second half, but currently there's no timetable. That sounds a little optimistic to me, but we shall see. Brian Holiday was recalled from AAA to take his place, and of course James McCann will now become the top catcher in Detroit. Avila was hitting just 200 with little power and production. He is now 28 years old. Have we seen the best that he has to offer, I guess, now, Tim?
Well, yeah, I pretty much think so, Rob, and with his status day-to-day over the balance of the season, I'm not anticipating any big spikes in value.
Mm-hmm. Well, he wasn't really playing as much this season. He only had 60 at-bats so far. He did have 10 runs, so that was a better pace than last year, but, the numbers were just awful. His ISO was down for the second straight year. Talk about catcher speed. He hasn't swiped a base since 2012. That 295 campaign he had in 2011 really looks like the outlier here, but 200 is low even by his standards. Now, in fairness, his BABIP was rather low at 270 compared to a career 319 mark, so you figure things will correct themselves in the second half, assuming he can get back. But here's the question for you now, Tim. Is James McCann the long-term answer here, or does Detroit think Avila can remain their catcher long-term?
Well, I think one of the things you have to look at with Detroit is can defensively these guys do the job? Because Detroit doesn't need offense from their catcher position. It would be a nice bonus for them, but they have enough offense scattered throughout their lineup. They can afford to carry a catcher as long as he has more than a 10% record when it comes to picking base runners off. There's got to be some defense there. So, I don't think offense is the key in Detroit, but they have to have somebody who can call a good game and be solid defensively.
Well, Avila's saving grace was always that he's has excellent defensive skills. He's a patient hitter, but of course has no speed and poor contact skills. But glove work was never the question there.
Which is a good thing, because if they were relying on offense, it could be a bit of a challenge, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, the good news again is that the concussions, which kind of would derail his career a little bit, haven't cropped up this year. It's something else now, but, with those concussions, you hear constantly day to day, of course. Meanwhile, Tim, Detroit is kind of dealing with lots of injuries now. You've got add Avila to the mix that already includes Verlander, Rondon, Joe Nathan, J.D. Martinez is hurting now. They're kind of spinning their wheels a bit lately. They're still second in the AL Central, but suddenly they have Minnesota breathing down their back. We have problems in Motown right now, Tim?
Well, we got some challenges. Anibal Sanchez has been hit and miss. He's struggled on occasion, but just as Minnesota starts to breathe down their neck a little bit, Minnesota pays them a visit today, and Detroit bangs out 20 hits in a 13-1 trouncing, including Miggy Cabrera getting back on the old wagon with 2 homers and 5 RBIs. So there's enough there's enough offense in Detroit.
Sure, and the aforementioned Sanchez for a gem today too. Saved the bullpen some trouble.
Yeah, and guess coincidence of all coincidences. Guess who went 3 for 5 today with a homer and 3 RBIs?
Yeah, it was Brian Holiday.
Well, yeah.
He had a 2-run homer. Yeah. 3 ribbies. Well, I saw that. Very nice debut. Holiday could always hit. He always could. I think it was his defense that came into question whether he could become an everyday catcher. But as a guy who came off the bench once a week and played, I always kind of liked him.
Well, yeah, and hey, everything went good for Detroit today. Even Albuquerque got through an inning without imploding. Small miracle.
I just want to remind everyone you're listening to the RotoRob Fantasy Baseball Weekly podcast featuring this week's guest, Tim McLeod. And now a quick word from our sponsor, Side League, offering daily fantasy contests with no salary cap, no sharks, and no hassle. You can win money while you trash talk your friends. Visit sideleague.com and download our app for Android or iPhone today. If you enter promo code RotoRob, you'll get a free $5 deposit now. Side League, fantasy sports for everyone. So with that in the books, let's get to today's box scores, Tim. I was watching St. Louis-Cleveland, which has been a very interesting series. Of course, so we saw what Kluber did yesterday. But today, St. Louis turned the table and managed to win a pitcher's battle 2-1. Surprise, surprise, Matt Carpenter played the hero once again as St. Louis got into the Cleveland bullpen in the 8th. As soon as they did, he came in as the hero. Despite getting dominated by Kluber last night, the Cardinals actually wound up winning the series to open up a 5.5 game lead on the second-place Cubs in the NL Central. They've struck out 30 times in the last 2 games, St. Louis. Wow. I mean, man, talk about the K rates going up. But meanwhile, Cleveland's struggles continue. They're now in the AL Central, 3 back of the 4th-place White Sox. Tim, the Indians haven't won consecutive games since April 8th, 9th. Over about 5 weeks now since they've strung together consecutive wins. That is just awful. Leading the way for the Cards today, as I mentioned, was Matt Carpenter. Again, the man, 1 for 4 with a run, 2 RBIs, struck out 3 times, hit his 6th homer of the year to account for both runs. Actually slowing down a bit lately, has struck out 6 times in the last 3 games, so nice to see him go yard. He had missed a few games this week with fatigue, and he hit well in his first game back, but has just the 1 hit in 2 games since. Of course, it was a very big hit. Still, through 30 games, to me, Matt Carpenter is very much looking like an MVP candidate. Michael Wacha was the starter today for the Cardinals. He lasted 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, struck out 7, walked 2, gave up a homer for the only run, had thrown 105 pitches, so had to get him out of there. Got the no decision, did lower his ERA to 2.06. The Cardinals have really been trying to limit his innings to the point that even a 6-man rotation is being considered. Of course, if he gets to 105 pitches through 5 innings, he'll pretty much limit himself. He had thrown 59 in the first 2 innings alone before he settled down and got into a bit of a groove. Still, Wacha remains 5-0 in the year. Loving the control he's showing this year. Great to see his ERA so low after it was up last season a bit. Kevin Segrist got the win with 2 shutout innings. Randy Choate got a hold after getting 1 out. Seth Mann has picked up his 5th hold with 1/3 shutout innings. Has his ERA down to 3.29. And Trevor Rosenthal worked 1 1/3 shutout innings for the save, and his ERA is now a very tidy 1.06. For the Indians, Michael Brantley was 1 for 3 with a solo homer for the only Tribe run. Also drew a walk. That's his 4th homer of the year. He's now up to 330 after taking Michael Wacha deep in the 6th inning. He has actually maintained a sweet BA. Tim?
Yeah?
Oh, sorry, I heard a beep and thought something. Never mind. Brantley, I just heard a beep. I'm hearing beeps. Brantley, meanwhile, has maintained a sweet batting average all year, but after failing to go yard at all in April, he has now rediscovered his power stroke with all 4 homers in May. had an 11-game hitting streak snap Wednesday, but started a new one today, giving him hits in 12 of the last 13. Has 35 hits now in 27 games, has whiffed just 5 times all year, and has swiped 5 bags without being caught yet. Michael Brantley is proving last year apparently was not a fluke. Trevor Bauer was the starter for the Indians. He went 7 1/3, gave up 4 hits and 1 run, struck out 10, walked 3. He had thrown 110 pitches, so really had to get him out of there. Got a no decision. Finally had a good outing in May after getting rocked in his first 2 starts this month. This was actually his best start since his season debut. He's only given up 35 hits in 41 2/3. His whip has improved this year to 1.30. And then Mark Repet, help me out here, Tim.
Mark, the Polish guy.
Thank you very much. He gave up the homer. As soon as Bauer got in trouble in the 8th inning, they brought in the lefty, and sure enough, he gave up the homer to take his first loss and drop to 1-1, saw his ERA up to 5.19, first blown save of the year. For Repazinski, it's the first homer he's given up to a lefty since, get this, June 12th, 2012. Almost 3 years. And he was with the Cardinals back then, ironically. Tim was keeping an eye on the Battle of Pennsylvania today. Pirates-Phillies. What was shaken in Pennsylvania, Tim?
Well, before we move on there, can I just make a quick note on the Cards game?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Well, yeah. Batting leadoff today for the Cardinals was one Peter Bourjos. And you say, Peter Bourjos who? No, yes, it would be that Peter Bourjos. John Jay hit the DL, and it looked like Bourjos is going to see some steady at-bats for at least the next couple of weeks. Definitely somebody, should you be looking to fill one of those many injuries that are cropping up, keep Bourjos on your radar. I think he's a solid acquisition if you're looking for potentially runs scored and stolen bases for at least the next couple of weeks.
Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you. In fact, we had him in the wire troll on Sunday, so that proved rather prophetic.
Yes, I picked him up a couple of weeks ago and just sort of stashed him away because I'm dealing with a lot of walking wounded, and hey, so far so good. But moving on to Philly and Pittsburgh, this was a tale of basically 2 players. Aaron Harang moves to 4-3 by tossing 8 innings of 5-hit ball with 1 walk, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. On the other hand, the Pirates went with Vince Worley, and he spun himself sort of a mess. 8 hits, 4 innings, just wasn't very effective today. For Philly, Ryan Howard hit his 7th, went 3 for 4 with 1 run, 1 RBI. Howard's, like as I mentioned, is up to 7 home runs now, actually starting to show a little bit of value. The other offensive star for Philadelphia would be one Freddie Galvis, who went 3 for 3 with a couple runs scored. Heading into the 9th inning, what looked like it was going to be a very ho-hum 4-0 victory quickly turned into a 4-2 game. Ken Giles had himself a little bit of a rough evening, and Jonathan Papelbon had to come in for his 8th save after Giles allowed a couple runs. But the big story is Harang keeps on rolling, and Ryan Howard still has a little bit left in the tank, Rob.
Speaking of Papelbon, I don't know if you noticed that earlier this week, he broke the Phillies' all-time save record.
Well,
did you hear about that?
Yeah,
and he now owns the all-time save record for both the Red Sox and Phillies, which is pretty freaking impressive.
Well, yeah. Did you happen to see the play that ended that game by any chance?
The Francoeur throw.
Frenchie.
Yes,
Nice
the old foul out, throw him out at the plate play. Yes.
Well, yeah. When Frenchie isn't doling out free pizzas to the fans in Oakland, he's actually got himself a pretty good arm, doesn't he?
Oh, he always had that arm. I mean, the bat kind of never developed the way we thought. I mean, certainly showed flashes earlier in his career of being a superstar, but no one ever questioned that arm. And I mean, in that situation, you've got to go for it. You've got to send the runner. But like, once again, Frank Kershaw, do not test me.
No, you will finish second in a 2-horse race.
Yeah, he threw without on the fly right to the plate. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was no doubt. It's nice to see. So much of the time we focus on the offense plays, the long home runs, the big strikeout games, and so often it seems like we miss opportunities to watch some of what I consider to be absolutely marvelous baseball plays, and that's the defense. And when you see a play like that, it makes you sort of stand back a little bit and say, "Whoa."
Yeah. Exactly. Whoa. Anything to report on the Pirates side of things there?
Yeah, they rested McCutchen today, and basically the big offensive force there was one Starling Marte, went 3 for 4 with run scored, RBI. He's got his average up to 287, and after a little bit of a slow start, Marte has been coming on lately. It'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next while in Pittsburgh, because our friend Kang has been getting himself some regular playing time as of late, here, there, and everywhere.
Yes.
So.
Yes. They've been working him in left. But speaking of slow starts, McCutchen has also turned it on the last week or so. After a slow start, he's finally looking more like the MVP that he was.
Well, yeah, I think he stole a base the other night, which is a good sign because he's been dealing with that. I believe it's a knee ailment pretty well all season.
Yeah, he says that was not the reason for the slow start, though. He insisted, but I mean, you got to figure it had to be a factor.
Well, the guy's traditionally a 20-plus stolen base guy, and he hadn't stolen a base until earlier in the week. But I'm sorry, Andrew, but you're not convincing me.
You never know. These things are a little strange sometimes. Now, Tim, we've got a few things I want to bring up before we go off the air. First of all, MLB draft, as I mentioned up top, is coming up soon. You've got the third pick. You're the Colorado Rockies. What would you go after if you're the GM of the Rockies?
Well, I'd be aching to take Brady, Rob. That'd be my pick.
That's an interesting pick. I figure if they do go pitching, Aiken is an excellent choice and could easily go 3. I figure if they go offense, I'm looking at Dansby Swanson, the shortstop for Vanderbilt, which is a school expected to be well represented in this draft. We could see 3 players from Vanderbilt going before the first round is even half over. And this could be the ultimate replacement for Troy Tulowitzki, and as the rumors continue to swirl that Tulo's on his way out of town. Swanson's an athletic player, quick, compact line drive swing, and was the most outstanding player at the College World Series in 2014. The thing about the draft, Tim, is in recent years we haven't seen a lot of great college hitters. I mean, Chris Bryant notwithstanding. Swanson can kind of help break that trend a little bit. He has a very advanced hitting approach from the right side of the plate. But I do like your pick if they do decide to go the pitching route again, Brady Aiken, because he will not. If he's still sitting there, like say pick 7 or 8, he's definitely not going to fall much further than that.
No, the only concern I guess would be his representation and what it's going to cost to get a deal done, right?
Well, this wouldn't be the first time that Colorado got involved in a scenario like this. They have not shied away from guys with signability issues, not necessarily always to successful means, but that's never seemed to be an issue in Colorado for some reason. So we shall see how that works out. At any rate, moving on, we've got an injury to report. As I mentioned up top, Justin Masterson has gone to the DL. And he wanted to work his way through his issues, but Boston doesn't feel it has time to wait. So it sounds like Stephen Wright is likely going to take Masterson's next turn. Anything to see in this particular situation, Tim?
Well, for those that were hoping and for a rebound and keeping him active in their lineup, you have just been given a huge bonus because he's on the DL and he won't be hurting you anymore for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember in my draft this year, Masterson was sitting on the wire and available late in the sup, and I was tempted to reach for him and drop someone. And just a little voice in my head said, "Nah, you know what? Just leave well enough alone. Don't just skip this one." And I did.
Yeah, it's a good call, Rob.
Every now and then, the voice in my head.
With what we've seen recently, did you really want to go through that?
No, it was just that, we've seen him suck before and bounce back. So and I thought perhaps the return to Boston would be the kind of thing to snap him out of his doldrums, but clearly that's not working out, and if he doesn't turn things around after his DL stint, he is not going to be long for this team, I don't think, Tim.
Well, no, Boston's got some serious issues. They did a very poor job of team construction in the off-season with their all-outfielder strategy and going with a whole bunch of 3-4 starting pitchers, and they simply have to get out there somewhere somehow and find themselves some pitching, or they could be on the outside looking in come October.
Yeah, so we all know Hamels continues to be brought up, but of course the Dodgers and now the Cardinals could be barking, the Yankees, of course, as well. We'll want to jump in on that. So I think Philly might wind up getting what they want in the end, because there's going to be several teams in a bidding war for Hamels, which is exactly what Philadelphia wanted. So maybe Ruben Amaro Jr., if Hamels doesn't manage to get hurt in the interim and screw the team, maybe Ruben Amaro Jr. will finally do something right. Who knows? Stranger things will happen.
Well, yeah, but not much. Can we place a wager on this, Rob?
Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, he might just back into a good deal because, mostly because other teams will be so desperate. But I'm not holding my breath on that. So, Tim, I was reading something interesting. I don't know if you've noticed this watching the game, that there's been more shifts this season than ever. Specifically, teams like Colorado and Arizona are employing the shift like ridiculously more. So apparently, through Sunday's games, Colorado had shifted their infield 141 times on balls in play, and they're on pace for 816 for the season, which is 7 times the amount that they did it last year. By far the highest increase in the majors, according to Baseball Info Solutions. The next closest is Arizona. They're on pace for 659, which is over 2.5 times more than they did a season ago. Have you noticed this at all? This crazy trend towards infield shifts?
Well, no, I haven't really been paying any particular attention to it, Rob. But I know it's becoming more and more prevalent in the game, going back to spring training, and our new fearless leader, Manfred Mann, decided that maybe that was one of the issues he would tackle. It's funny how that's gotten awful quiet, hasn't it, Rob?
Yeah. Well, let's put things in perspective. In 2011, Tim, the entire season, there were 2,357 shifts. Okay?
Okay.
This year, we've already seen 3,395, and we're in the middle of May. Okay, so it's going to work out to, the pace we're going at will put us at 17,666 over the season. That's up nearly 1/3 from last year's total. So, I mean, dramatic increase in shifting.
Yeah, I was going to say, the two teams that you mentioned, Colorado and Arizona, just by coincidence, Colorado is 9.5 back at 11-19, and Arizona is 15-18 right now in the NL West, 7 games back. Are you sure that isn't, rather than a shift they're employing, it's a rover position to try and actually stop teams from scoring so many runs?
Well, that's exactly what Colorado and Arizona need, is to add an extra infielder without anyone noticing. They need to pull their goalie and put an extra skater on the field.
Combined, the two teams are 26 and 37. How is that shifting really working out to their advantage?
When are you allowed to put like your mascot on the field or a hot dog vendor or something like that?
Well, I understand, and the principles behind the shift. And hey, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be employed. It's going to have some success. But when you look at teams that are struggling to win games, it sort of causes one to almost shake their head a little bit.
Well, but it's not just them doing it. A lot of teams are doing it. So, and some of them ostensibly are actually winning doing it. It's just alarming how it's become so in vogue now. It's a real trend in the game.
Well, then you got in St. Louis, you got Matheny, who once you get to about the seventh inning, decides to employ every arm in his bullpen for one out playing the matchup game. And I don't know if you've ever watched that, but that's a real treat too, Rob. Now, granted,
the last two innings take about 45, 50 minutes each.
It's almost like watching a basketball game, and you just sort of hang out there for the first three quarters and watch the last 2 minutes, and away you go, right?
Well, except the real disappointment of the situation is that the beer vendors are usually closed after the eighth inning. The final two innings they shut down, so you're sitting there with no place to go.
Well, you got a bag of peanuts and nothing to wash it down except cherry Coke.
Exactly.
And after swilling a couple of brews, that ain't going to work, is it?
No, not at all. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Orioles announced they will compensate their hourly rate staff that were affected by the rioting. They sent out a memo to their employees that read, "Due to the extraordinary circumstances that led to several canceled or rescheduled games, the Orioles organization will compensate all hourly employees for hours that would have been ordinarily worked the week of April 27th. This adjustment will be added to your 5/29 paycheck." Very, very classy move to recognize that, a lot of these seasonal workers count on that hourly income, and not everyone in baseball is a millionaire, Tim. I like it.
Yeah. I do too. So the one hot dog vendor they got on there is going to see a couple bucks, right? Oh, sorry, that was sarcasm. Sorry. I shouldn't be that mean.
Come on, Tim. No, it's a good thing. You know what? It's a classy move. Let's applaud a team when they do something right. The Orioles handled what was really an awful situation the best way they could. And, the fact that they recognize that the community's trying to heal and that these people should not be, suffer for, what happened in the city, because they count on that money. 3-4 hours at a few bucks an hour might not mean much to some people, but, it can mean a lot to them.
Yeah, it could, and it's nice to see because, if it happened in Miami, Jeffrey Lurie would ask the taxpayers to contribute.
He might hand out a bag of oranges to the employees or something, maybe.
Oh.
So, Tim, the Reds promoted Raisel Iglesias and then claimed Ryan Mateos on waivers from the Angels, and Iglesias looked awesome yesterday. So you got to figure he's going to stick around for a while. At least in the bullpen. Any fantasy ramifications there?
Well, yeah. When you start looking at the Reds' rotation, there could be some opportunities because they got another kid there that could end up in the bullpen as well. What I like to see, or what I'm very happy to see, with this spot start, is the reason he was sent down was to build up strength and to work on his pitch efficiency. The stuff is great. I've liked Iglesias since the first time I spied him out in spring training. The stuff plays very, very well. It was all about building up strength and pitch efficiency. And when you get called up and you go 8 innings, 8 very strong innings, that's a good indication that you've been working on the stuff they wanted you to be working on, and it's been successful.
I didn't actually notice his full line. How many pitches did he wind up throwing on that one? Do you know?
No, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would have to think he was probably limited to around 100 or so. I can find out very quickly, though.
Yeah, and I was just curious, because you talked about pitch efficiency, so I'm very curious, how many pitches did it take him to get to 8 innings? I'm assuming that they were watching him closely, so, if he was only at, say, 85 or 90, now that's very freaking efficient, to get to 8 innings. And as I said, Mateos was added to the 25-man roster, and Pedro of Villarreal was optioned to AAA to make room for him. In Tampa Bay, Ryan Brett, the second baseman who's on the DL for shoulder surgery, has been fielding ground balls and took some dry swings on Saturday. Could begin a minor league rehab next week. Anything to see there?
Well, I do have one question for you, Rob. You said dry swings, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's a wet swing? Is there such a thing?
A wet swing's when you actually hit the ball.
Okay.
Dry swing is swinging at air. Wet swing is in the pool.
That's what I was just going to say. By the way, Iglesias, 103 pitches
That's
in his 8
pretty
innings,
efficient.
74 for strikes.
That's pretty effective. It's good command.
Yeah.
Very good command.
Not a whole lot to quabble about with that effort. That's for sure.
For the Cubs, Chris Coughlin was out of the lineup today, but has seen most of the action in left field with Christian Norfia on the DL. Coughlin did come in late as part of a double switch and wound up drawing a walk in his only plate appearance. Anything to see there, Tim?
Not at this point in time. It'll be interesting to see, if we see the arrival of Almora sometime this summer, what that does to the makeup of that team.
Well, Norfia was killing it before he went on the DL.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I know, or I've been following closely in Chicago, is of course the ongoing. Chris Bryant show, and nice to see him finally popping a few out of the park.
Yeah, it took him a while to get that one. I mean, not that he was hitting poorly. It took him a while to get that one, and now that's the monkey's off the back. They're coming in binges, it seems. Tim, over in New York, how good has Dellin Betances been so far this year?
Well, when you look at the back end of that pen with Betances and Miller, very, 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 very impressive. If their starting pitching can get through 7 innings, you might as well just say arrivederci. She's all but over.
I don't think they're getting nearly enough credit for how good the Yankees, how big a role they played in the Yankees' resurgence this year, the back end of that bullpen. Because it certainly hasn't been starting pitching. I mean, their hitting's been solid, the Yankees. No one person in particular dominating or anything. The pitching has been meh for the most part. We've definitely seen some nice things out of Michael Pineda. Seems to be stepping into an ace role, but man, that bullpen, it's just been crazy lights out.
Well, that's it. Like I said, once you get through 7, it's pretty well game over. I'm following the Jays-Astros game, and for those very few that weren't aware of it, if you're looking for strikeouts, start absolutely anybody against the Astros. Drew Hutchison's been struggling most of the season, and through 5 innings, he's got 8 Ks, 4 hits, 1 walk. I don't think there's a team in baseball that has as much miss in their swing as the Astros do.
Well, meanwhile, they're off to the best start in franchise history.
Yeah, totally bizarre. The interesting thing will be to see how long they go with the combination of Jonathan, I'm hitting 184 VR, and Marwin, whose claim to fame was breaking up Yu Darvish's perfect game, Gonzalez, at shortstop before we see the arrival of one Carlos Correa.
Well, that's just it. I mean, there's help on the way to make this team even better, which is just this team has really turned things around quick. They really have.
Well, yeah, when you've got an all-world player like Jose Altuve in the lineup, and you toss in a George Springer who's finally back off the DL.
Risnick's been killing it.
Yeah, and the 2 starters, McHugh and Keuchel, have both stepped up and are pitching very well this year.
Gregerson's looking lights out in the closer role.
Yeah, very surprising. I had my druthers on Gregerson based on the number of failures we've seen over the years, but Gregerson's getting it done. I'm happy for the fans in Houston, and let's hope they can, with the right call-up here and there, they can sustain the hot start and make a go of it right through the duration this year, Rob.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they've got some stuff on the farm on the way, too. I don't know if you've noticed what Derek Fisher's been doing down in A-Ball. But
no, I haven't noticed what Fisher's been doing, but I own him in 3 dynasty leagues, and he's
well, his OPS is over 1,000. He's killing it.
Ooh.
I mean, he's hitting like 360, 450 on base percentage, like 700 slugging. I mean, he is absolutely killing it.
Is he in low
he's going to force. I'm sorry?
Is he in low or high A, Rob?
He's actually in high A, so he's going to force his way to double A very soon. Very soon.
I was going to say, if he's tearing it up like that at double A, at high A, you got to expect double A is not all that far down the road. That's fast tracking it in a huge way, isn't it?
Well, he was an advanced hitter coming out of college. He slid in the draft based on some injuries in his final season of college. But I mean, he had such a great college career that the track record was there. To like he originally was supposed to be a mid first round pick, but he slid into the second round. I'm sorry,
right.
he's at Class A, not High A. He's in the Midwest.
Oh, okay.
But at this point, okay, his OPS is 1016. He needs to be sent to High A as soon as possible because he's making a mockery, and he's got speed too. I mean, this guy's got power, speed, average. He stole 17 bases in 41 games last year in the New York Penn League.
Nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I got him tucked away in a couple of dynasty leagues. So,
that's a wise decision, my friend.
Yes, it's always nice to hear some of your young players starting to develop and maybe a little bit quicker than you originally anticipated.
Mm-hmm. I'm also looking for promotion from some of my other youngsters, like Ozhano Albies has been killing it. I think he could be due for a promotion soon. There's several players that I'm looking at who could be on the move soon. Back to bullpen activity and switching to the other New York team. How about Uris Familia? How good has he been, and how important to the Mets' early season success?
Well, you can't speak enough about what he's done to shore up that bullpen, because let's face it, there were a slew of question marks heading into the regular season. Bobby Parnell, where is Bobby Parnell? We haven't seen Bobby Parnell yet, but he was supposed to be back a while ago, and he's still not ready. And Henry Mejia ends up with the suspension. He's been a godsend for the Mets in the back of that bullpen. They really needed somebody to step up, and he's done the job.
Down in Texas, Sin-Soo Choo's first season was absolutely a nightmare, and this season started like a nightmare too, but he got another 3 hits today, has now hit safely in 14 straight, and he's really starting to show some life there, Tim.
Yeah, in my home league, somebody actually got tired at the end of April of seeing over consistently and dropped him. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a chance here. So I picked him up, stashed him, and I've been very, very happy with what I've seen in the month of May. He's looking much like, minus the speed, the player that we've come to know and love hitting at the top of that lineup. And, it'll certainly provide opportunities for one Prince Fielder to pad those RBI numbers if Chu can keep getting on base the way he has.
Yeah, well, I think Fielder got his 20th ribby today, so he's, and he's starting to hit some homers. I mean, his batting average and on-base percentage have been ridiculous all year, but the slugging's coming around now, too, which is a great sign. And Beltre has definitely been showing signs of life. Over the last couple of games, he was skidding, but over the last 2 weeks, he's really starting to show signs of life as well. So things looking up in Texas offensively there.
Yeah, they certainly are. speaking of bullpens, the Fish finally tired of Steve Cishek and pulled him from the role, and A.J. Ramos looks to be the front runner, earning his first save just the other night. So
that's a shame.
What's a shame?
I'm just saying. I mean, I dealt Cishek last year, so here I am crying.
Oh, okay. That was
in my keeper league. I got rid of Cishek, so I have a little tear in my eye. Not.
Yeah, I can just imagine. My guess is you aren't on your trading partner's Christmas card list for this year. Just a hunch.
That's a shame. Another guy who's heating up is Wilson Ramos, Tim. Obviously, as with always, if he can only stay healthy, he heads into tonight on a 15-game hitting streak. That game gets underway at 10:05 Eastern. Washington is playing on the West Coast tonight. 10:10 in San Diego Eastern. And will Ramos be looking to hit safely for a 16th straight game tonight?
Whew. Absolutely impressive. I'm just looking at the Reds and Giants game, and they're tied 3-3 right now. Billy Hamilton. Guess what Billy Hamilton's batting average is right now, Rob?
I think it was around 219.
205. How about his OBP?
If his batting average 205, I'm going to say 253.
Ooh, close, 259. How long are the Reds going to keep wheeling Billy Hamilton out there with the struggles?
As the leadoff hitter. I don't care how many freaking stolen bases you can accumulate. If you can't get on base, you're not helping the team. It's just...
Well, no, Zach Cozart's got a 367 OBP hitting in the 2-hole. Marlon Byrd at a 305.
That'll continue, Zach Cozart.
Well, he's been on a roll since the beginning of the year, but at some point in time you would think Cincinnati's going to have to do something to address that situation, and I don't know what the answer is there, but I saw Billy Hamilton in the AFL, and man, oh man, that speed is blind. He's a game changer, but he's yet to be able to master the ability to get to first base.
I'm sorry, but for my money, if your leadoff hitter does not get on base at least say 34% of the time, it's not good enough. 330 is cutting it.
I think you got to be 330, 340 to be an effective leadoff guy myself. I agree with you. 259 is a little light.
It's very, very light. It's very light, absolutely. So we finally saw Corey Kluber show up, Tim. Shook off a season-long slump. Struck out 18 Wednesday as the Indians shut out the Cards 2-0 in 8 innings. They yanked him from the game. He had a chance to make history if he had struck out the side in the 9th. Man, talk about shaking off a slump with authority, eh?
Yeah, in a huge way, and it's nice to see him bounce back and have that.
More than a bounce back. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Kluber owners who were just like, their first reaction was, phew, because you're probably thinking, what the hell's wrong with this guy? I spent a second-round pick on him this year, or whatever they did.
Well,
and then their second reaction was, what? 18 strikeouts, 1 hit in 8 innings, regardless of who the hell does that. You just got to shake your head and tip your cap. Wow.
And you know what? For a few of them, the third reaction was WTF. I sat him because he's been pitching so terrible.
Right, and he's playing against a Cards team that's been piling up runs.
Well, exactly. So I know of several people that actually sat him, and
yeah, that's one of those top 10 stories of your fantasy career. So, where were you the day Corey Kluber struck out 18? Well, I know where he was. He was sitting on my bench.
Well, no! Yeah, exactly. And come the end of the year, it didn't matter that I lost the league title by 15, 16 strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Irrelevant.
Exactly. Bad news, more pitching bad news in Atlanta. Tim, Mike Minor, season-ending surgery. Fuck.
How many have we had now on that shoulder? Do you think he'll ever be back, Rob? Like, you know, shoulders are such, you know, so often you see shoulder injuries and pitchers just don't make it back. You can't replace a shoulder. You know what I mean? Do you think Minor will ever be or ever have a chance to fulfill that potential that was there at one point in time?
I think it's possible. It's more possible with Minor than it would be with someone who relies specifically on their fastball. You know? We shall see. I mean, we'll know a lot more next year. I mean, he's young enough, certainly. He's only 27, 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
There's time is on his side, but the record of pitchers coming back from this kind of surgery and being anywhere near as effective is not very long. So
I was going to say the track record isn't good, is it?
No, it's not. It's not like Tommy John where, you can be as effective or more so, a year and a half, 2 years down the road. But anyhow, as a minor owner in my keeper league, I'm going to stick my head in the sand and say, yeah, he's going to be fine.
There we go.
Yeah.
I've always said you were a real trooper, Rob, and that just reinforces my thought process there.
Well, I mean, the alternative is basically unthinkable, so I'm going to avoid that.
Well, you can always try copious amounts of alcohol on a Friday night, and you'll forget about it.
Don't worry, I'm going to do that regardless of how Mike Minor does. That's not a problem.
Just had a hunch, eh?
That's not a problem. Any other stories you want to bring up?
No, not really. I think covered off most of the key items that are occurring in our world this week.
Well, then you go ahead and put your pin pad on and tell me what you want to plug this week, my friend.
Well, after last week, it's sort of tough to top, but I think I'll just mention the fact that I'm hanging out over at Patton and Company. You can catch me Sunday evenings with Rich Wilson on the Prospect 361 podcast, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. And when I'm not hanging around at either one of those two places, you can find me either on Facebook or at Twitter as Timothy LMC. Thanks for having me on, Rob. It was a blast as usual.
Thank you so much for coming on. I much appreciate it as always. Good times, and we're going to close the show with some Sean Mulrain, and we'll see you all real soon.
Yeah, thanks again, and I'm just going to sit down and have chocolate chip cookies, Rob. I'll have one for you.
You're such a jerk.